Welcome, listeners, to a tale of searching, of belonging, and of the dark secrets that can lie hidden in our very blood. In tonight's story, a man's search for his biological family through a DNA test leads him to a remote, picture-perfect community. But he soon discovers this idyllic commune hides a horrifying secret, and his own genes are the key to their terrifying masterpiece. Settle in.
The email arrived on a Tuesday, a sliver of electric blue in the gray morass of junk mail and work reminders. For Larry, a man who felt perpetually untethered, the subject line was a siren's call. You have a new DNA relative. He clicked. His heart, a frantic bird, beat against the cage of his ribs. For 28 years, his history had been a blank page. A story that began the day a smiling couple picked him up from an agency. He loved his adoptive parents, but a part of him always felt like a borrowed book, its first chapter ripped out. He'd spat into the vial for Eternity Helix weeks ago, half convinced it was a pointless exercise in hope. But there it was, a name. Paula Foster. Relationship, half-sister. A tidal wave of emotions, shock, elation, terror crashed over him. He fired off a message, his fingers trembling so hard he made 3 typos. A reply came within the hour. It was a video link. He accepted the call, and a face bloomed on his screen that was both alien and achingly familiar. She had his nose, the same slight curve to the bridge he'd always been self-conscious about. But her eyes were a startling, crystalline green, and her smile was radiant, unburdened. Larry, she breathed, and the sound of his own name from her lips felt like a key turning in a lock he never knew existed. I can't believe it. We've wondered for so long. Paula spoke of her life in a place called Pine Bluffs, a community nestled deep in the Cascade Mountains. She painted a picture of an idyllic existence, of timber frame houses built by hand, of gardens groaning with organic food, and the life lived in harmony with nature and with each other. A self-sufficient commune, she called it. Our mother, she left before I was born, Paula explained, a shadow of pain crossing her perfect features. She was young, and the world outside seemed exciting. We never knew what happened to her or to you.
The invitation was a natural conclusion to the call. You have to come visit, she insisted, her green eyes shining with earnestness. You have to see your home, meet your family. Family. The word echoed in the empty spaces of Larry's heart. A week later, he was in his car, driving north. The city shrank in his rear-view mirror, its concrete and steel replaced by endless emerald forests. His GPS gave out first, its screen a blank, helpless slate. Then the cell service vanished, the last bar flickering and dying as he turned onto a gravel road marked only by a simple, carved wooden sign, Pine Bluffs. The road wound deeper into a valley untouched by the modern world. Sunlight, thick and golden, filtered through a canopy of ancient cedars. When he finally emerged into a clearing, the sight stole his breath. Pine Bluffs wasn't just idyllic, it was perfect. Meticulously crafted log cabins with smoking chimneys were arranged around a central green. People in simple, earth-toned clothes worked in vast, orderly gardens or sat on porches, their faces turned to the sun. There was no litter, no noise, no chaos. Just a profound, almost unnerving peace. Paula was waiting for him. In person, she was even more striking. She hugged him tightly, a real, bone-deep embrace of belonging. "Welcome home, brother," she whispered. The first day was a blur of welcoming smiles and firm handshakes. He was introduced to dozens of people at the communal dinner, held in a magnificent great hall with a vaulted ceiling. He met Howard, a man with the physique of a lumberjack and Paula's same green eyes. He met Mildred, a gentlewoman who oversaw the apiary, her hands calloused, but her smile serene. And he met Father Franklin. Franklin was the community's elder, a man whose age was impossible to guess. His hair was silver, but his back was straight, and his eyes, a piercing, intelligent blue, seemed to see right through Larry. "We are so blessed to have you with us," Franklin said, his voice a low, resonant hum. He held Larry's hand a moment too long, his thumb pressing into the pulse point on Larry's wrist. "Family is a sacred trust, a biological imperative. We have a duty to honor the gifts encoded in our blood."
Larry, still high on the emotion of the reunion, nodded along. It sounded like standard commune speak, a little eccentric but harmless. The food was incredible, the freshest he had ever tasted. The air was clean and crisp. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. But as the days bled into one another, tiny dissonant notes began to disrupt the symphony of perfection. He noticed the physical similarities. It wasn't just Paula and Howard. Nearly everyone had the same striking green or blue eyes. Their features were all harmonious, symmetrical. They were all exceptionally healthy, radiating a vitality that seemed almost unnatural. There were children, rosy-cheeked and strong, but he saw no one who looked elderly or infirm. He saw no one with glasses, no one who limped, no one with any visible imperfection. The conversations, too, felt strange. They would speak of the founder's vision and the great work with a quiet, fervent reverence. When he asked Paula what the great work was, she just smiled. "It is the cultivation of our potential, ensuring that the future is stronger than the past." One afternoon, strolling near the edge of the woods, he overheard Father Franklin speaking with a young couple. They sat on a bench, their heads bowed. Franklin's tone was not harsh, but it was chillingly clinical. "The lineage charts are clear. A pairing between you would amplify the recessive markers for myopia. It is a weakness we cannot afford to propagate. You will be assigned new partners for the next cycle. The work demands it." The couple nodded, their faces masks of placid disappointment. Larry felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. Assigned new partners? Lineage charts? It sounded less like a community and more like a breeding program. He tried to brush it off. He was an outsider, misinterpreting their culture. But the feeling of being watched grew. The friendly smiles of the community members began to feel like the placid stares of curators observing a new exhibit. The fourth morning, he decided he needed a little space, a drive to the nearest town to clear his head. He reached for his car keys on the nightstand. They were gone. He found Paula in the communal kitchen, kneading dough with practiced ease. "Have you seen my keys?" he asked, trying to keep his tone light. She turned, wiping flour from her hands. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, you won't be needing those, Larry. Why would you want to leave? You're home now." A prickle of real fear went down his spine. "I just wanted to grab a few things from town." "We have everything you need right here," she said, her voice soft but absolute. He noticed then that his phone, which he'd left on the charger, was unplugged. The battery was dead. Panic began its insidious creep. Every excuse he made was met with a gentle, unyielding refusal. He was their guest, their family. They would take care of everything. The walls of the valley, once a comforting embrace, now felt like the bars of a cage. That night, they held a ceremony in his honor. A true welcoming, Franklin called it. The entire community gathered in the Great Hall.
The air was thick with the scent of pine incense and an unspoken electric anticipation. They gave him a ceremonial tunic of white linen to wear. It felt less like a garment and more like a uniform. Instead of leading him to the head of the dining table, Franklin and Paula guided him toward a heavy oak door at the back of the hall he'd never seen open, a door he'd been told was for archives. "The final step of your homecoming," Franklin said, his blue eyes gleaming in the torchlight.
The room beyond was not for archives. It was a laboratory, sterile, cold, and utterly out of place. One wall was covered in blinking server racks and monitors. The other, the one that made Larry's blood run cold, was lined floor to ceiling with meticulous genealogical charts. There were intricate, sprawling family trees, but beneath each name were not dates of birth and death, but strings of letters and numbers, genetic data, notations on everything from hair color to pancreatic enzyme levels. It was a human stud book, spanning over a century. On a large central monitor was his own profile from Eternity Helix, blown up for all to see. "Our founder was a visionary," Franklin began, his voice echoing slightly in the sterile room. He gestured to the charts, "a geneticist who saw the poisons of the modern world degrading the human form. He knew that to survive, to truly flourish, humanity needed pruning, guidance. We are gardeners, Larry, tending the human genome, weeding out the flaws, nurturing the strengths." He pointed a long, steady finger at Larry's profile on the screen. He'd highlighted a long, complex string of code, a single genetic marker. "Your mother was part of our outreach. Once a generation, we send a few of our best out into the world, a biological pilgrimage to find new, desirable traits to fold back into the lineage. Your mother carried a recessive gene for incredible cellular regeneration, a gift. But she broke her sacred vow. She fell in love with an outsider and ran. She hid you from us." The pieces slammed into place, forming a monstrous, calculated horror. This wasn't a family reunion. It was an acquisition. "We have been breeding for generations. We have eliminated hereditary cancers. We have perfected immune responses. We have elevated intelligence and strength. But the final piece, the keystone to our great work, has eluded us." He tapped the highlighted marker on the screen. "A mutation, a 1 in a billion anomaly. It appeared in your mother's line, but we never saw it expressed until now. Your unique combination of her genetics and your father's has unlocked it. This marker doesn't just grant regeneration, Larry. It perfects it. It is the key to a flawless human form, free from disease and decay. It is the end of our work." Larry stared, his mind refusing to process the words. He turned to Paula, searching her face for some sign that this was a joke, a bizarre hazing ritual. He found none. Her green eyes were wide with zealous fire. "No," Larry whispered, taking a step back. "No, I'm leaving." The atmosphere in the room turned from clinical to glacial. The handful of other community members present took a step forward, their serene expressions hardening into something possessive, predatory. "You don't understand," Franklin said, his voice losing its warmth. "You are the most important person in the world right now. You are not a guest. You are a key." "I'm not a thing," Larry shouted, his voice cracking with terror. "I'm a person. You can't keep me here." Paula moved then, faster than he could react. She grabbed his arm, and her grip was like a vice. The gentle, welcoming sister was gone, replaced by a true believer, a guardian of the faith. "We've been waiting for you for 30 years, Larry. We're not going to let you go. The future is too important." She looked at him, her gaze filled not with love, but with a chilling proprietary hunger. "You're not family. You're the harvest."
They didn't lock him in a dungeon. The cage was a gilded one. He was returned to his cabin, which was now impossible to open from the inside. They brought him delicious food, clean clothes, and books to read. They treated him like a priceless artifact, a holy relic. And every day, a woman named Hazel, with a PhD in genetics and the same dead-eyed placidity as the rest of them, would come to draw his blood, to take tissue samples. Her touch impersonal, her questions clinical. He knew what they were doing. They were mapping him, learning how to replicate his gift, how to breed it into their line. He was the blueprint for their masterpiece. And once they had what they needed, what use would the blueprint be? He had to escape. He feigned compliance. He smiled. He answered Hazel's questions. He ate the food. He played the part of the cooperative specimen. After a week, they relaxed their guard slightly. They started letting him walk the grounds for an hour a day, always with a silent, smiling escort. He chose his moment during a late afternoon walk with Howard. A sudden rainstorm had begun to lash the valley, the sky turning a bruised purple. As they passed a dense copse of firs near the perimeter, Larry bolted. He shoved Howard hard, sending the bigger man stumbling into the mud, and sprinted into the trees. The forest was a dark, chaotic maze of whipping branches and sucking mud. The idyllic commune was gone, replaced by a primal wilderness. Behind him, he heard a horn blow, a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the valley. The hunt had begun. He ran, fueled by pure adrenaline. His city lungs burned, his muscles screamed. He could hear them behind him, crashing through the undergrowth. They were fast, tireless. They were born for this. They were perfect. He stumbled through a creek, the icy water shocking his system, and clawed his way up a muddy embankment. The rain was his only ally, washing away his scent, muffling the sounds of his flight. He ran until he couldn't feel his legs, until his vision swam with black spots. Then, through the trees, he saw it. A flicker of unnatural light. Headlights. The main road. It couldn't be more than 100 yards away.
A sob of desperate relief escaped his lips. He pushed himself forward, branches tearing at his face and clothes. He could hear the hiss of tires on wet asphalt. Freedom. He burst from the tree line and onto the gravel shoulder, waving his arms frantically at the approaching car. It slowed, its lights pinning him like a frightened animal. And then they were on him. Figures emerged from the woods on all sides, stepping into the glare of the headlights. They had outrun him, anticipated him. They moved with a silent, coordinated grace. At their head was Paula, her face streaked with rain, her green eyes glowing. The door opened, and Father Franklin stepped out. He hadn't been hunting. He had been waiting. "You have your mother's spirit," Franklin said, his voice calm above the drumming rain. "It's a shame. Defiance is a flaw we will have to breed out." Larry's last ounce of strength deserted him. He fell to his knees in the mud. Paula walked over to him, looking down with an expression of profound, pitying disappointment. "Don't you see, Larry? This is for the good of everyone. This is for the children. This is for the future." Two men grabbed his arms, their grips unbreakable, and hauled him back toward the heavy oak door of the lab, back toward the charts and the needles and the cold, sterile tables. As the door swung shut behind him, plunging him into the bright clinical light, the last thing he saw was Paula's face, her beautiful, familiar face, watching him with the detached satisfaction of a gardener who had finally captured a rare and precious specimen. The lock clicked home, a sound of absolute finality. He was no longer Larry. He was a cure, a catalyst, a key to be turned until it broke.
Thank you for tuning in. Be careful what secrets you go searching for, you just might find them. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales of terror. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.